Yo guys, what is up? Max here in Diablo 4 video, and today we're going over my step-by-step leveling guide for the Druid class. Now, this guide is going to only be using legendary aspects that you acquire from dungeons. You'll be able to have most of this build online by around Act 3, and I'll be going over every single skill that you need to spec and the order that we're going to be speccing our skills. Now, I will be using this build to launch into a late game build where there are some like wish list aspects that are going to push this build to the next level. But what I wanted to cover in this video particularly is how I'm going to be leveling the Druid and what aspects are really important for those early game power spikes. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let's get right into it. So I'm going to be trying something new for this video. Let me know if you guys like it. We're going to be walking through the skill tree point by point, but at certain milestones in our level, aka like level 20, level 30, I'm going to show you what legendary aspects you should be picking up from what acts, because you gain a massive damage increase to this build once you hit around Act 2. So I'll be showing that kind of as we go. So to start us off, we're going to be picking Storm Strike to level. You can pick whatever skill you want. Storm Strike, I think, is the best option. It does chaining damage, it gives us damage reduction, and most importantly, it has a chance to immobilize enemies. We are then going to be picking up Landslide. Landslide is our bread and butter damage skill for this build. Landslide will also have the ability to immobilize enemies, and most importantly, when you immobilize or stun an enemy, you gain a terror mote. Each enemy hit by Landslide consumes a terror mote, causing a guaranteed critical strike with 40% increased critical strike damage, and bosses have a chance to give you a terror mote when hit. So now we've got a chaining damage and a way to immobilize, and then stacking guaranteed critical damage whenever we do immobilize an enemy. Then we're going to put another point into Landslide, which unlocks our defensive skills. Now, early game Druid's a little squishy, so you could dump more points into Landslide. We're going to put a point into Earth and Bulwark, which is going to make us unstoppable, aka we can't get crowd controlled, and also it's going to give us even more Fortify, which is really, really nice. Note, we need 2 more points to get down here. We don't need the critical strike against close because we've got guaranteed critical strikes, and we don't want these core skills costing more spirit quite yet. We'll get there eventually. So we're going to put 2 more points into Landslide, giving us almost 100% of our damage as Landslide damage. Then we get one of the most important things for this build, which is Poison Creeper. The reason Poison Creeper is so strong for this build is because it does a massive area and it immobilizes everything it touches. Now, that immobilize is going to give us a ton of stacks to consume with Landslide, which is going to bolster the damage of this skill. Next up, we can grab Poison Creeper's immobilize duration is increased by 1 second. More enemies immobilized is going to give us more damage. And here you have your critical strike chances increased by 20% against enemies strangled by Poison Creeper. I do not take this here because I'll explain later, but we already have guaranteed critical strike damage with our Landslides, and this is going to proc those guaranteed critical damage, so we don't need more critical chance. What we are going to take is more poison duration, which will be very valuable once we get down here. Note, we're still not able to pick this up quite yet, so we're going to come over here and put an extra point into Storm Strike. This is going to give our Storm Strike the ability to make enemies vulnerable, and then we'll also be topping up Landslide to max out its damage as much as possible. And then that brings us into this skill tree. Now, here we've got a few options. Now, I personally am going to be speccing down here and maxing this out immediately. Poisoned enemies take 30% additional critical strike damage. Remember that we went and Poison Creepered, increased the poison duration, so now we've got more time to enact this more critical damage against poison enemies. Now that we're level 21, we should be around Act 2, and we're going to take a break from the main story quest to do some dungeons. These dungeons are going to give us legendary aspects that will carry us for the rest of our playthrough. So to start us off, we've got the Ballistic aspect. This reads, when you have Fortify, your Earth skills gain +2 ranks. You get this from the Whispering Pines dungeon in Skosglen, aka Act 2, and this is going to give you +7 into your Landslide. At level 21, we have 7 out of 5 into Landslide, which is just a ton of damage. Next up, we're going to grab damage from our Earth skills, slows enemies hit by 25 to 50%. Note, if we get this from the Codex, it's going to be the lowest possible, so 25%, but this is really, really important. You get this from Feral's Den in Skosglen. We're going to be pairing that with the Crash Stone aspect. Now, at this point, you can put this on a 2-handed weapon, and it's going to give us 40% on a one-handed, 80% more critical strike damage to crowd-controlled enemies. This is a massive damage multiplier for us because, once again, our Landslide is guaranteed to crit. So this is 80% more damage on those Landslide crits, And all of our earth skills are always going to be slowing enemies, aka crowd controlling them. So we're self-feeding ourselves even more damage. And then lastly, this one's not as important, but we can pick up the aspect of the expectant from the Underroot in Skosglen. Attacking enemies with basic skills increase the damage of your next core skill by up to 30%. It doesn't really matter on the lower rolls here. It's going to take us a few more casts, but this is going to give us even more damage for our landslide, which is going to be carrying us at this point. There should be 3 wishlist aspects showing on screen right now. These are not aspects that are guaranteed to drop, and you might not see until you're level 50 or later, but if you get any of these aspects, you should immediately slot them in your build. These are wishlist aspects that are not going to be used in this build because, once again, they're not guaranteed, but the trample giving us extra landslides is going to be fantastic. The landslides hitting additional times is just a ton more damage, and giving our earth skills even more crit damage after we use a storm skill pairs really, really well with our basic skill. So all of those things are really, really great, but once again, not guaranteed to drop. Now that we're 21, we're going to want to get to our ultimate, and we need 3 points. You can either put those points into Crushing Earth, which is going to give us increased damage against slowed, stunned, immobilized, or go Trample. I grabbed the other skill. We're going to grab Trample, mainly because it's going to give us damage. It's going to knock back enemies and stun them, which will give us more Terror motes, but it'll also generate Spirit for us. Spirit is going to be a bit of an issue on Druid super early, so getting this 20 Spirit is really, really nice, and that gives us access to our ultimate. Our ultimate, we're going to use Petrify. This is going to stun enemies for 3 seconds, and we deal 25% increased critical strike damage. You'll note we're stacking up a ton of crit damage, and against bosses, we get 50% increased critical strike damage. Massive for our single target damage, and with groups, we're just going to be hitting everything. We're going to increase its duration, and also killing an enemy affected by Petrify grants us 25 Spirit. At this point, we should be having a lot less Spirit issues with Trample plus Petrify to basically give us our full Spirit bar if we cast this in a group of enemies. And then we're going to come over to Crushing Earth. We're going to spend these points. Our Earth skills deal 15% increased damage to slowed, stunned, immobilized, knocked back. We have everything is going to be getting slowed. So 15% always increased damage for our earth skills. And then we're also going to grab this. While you have Fortify for over 50% of your maximum life, your earth skills deal 12% increased damage. Note that with our just 1 out of point into Earth and Bulwark, if you can find any more points right here, even with just 1, we're still fortifying for more than 50% of our life. So we're going to get another damage multiplier. Now that we're level 33 and most likely in Act 3, aka the Dry Steppes, we're going to pick up 2 new aspects. And the first one is aspect of the Mending Stone. The duration of Earth and Bulwark is increased by 6 seconds. In addition, killing an enemy with Earth skills replenishes a percentage of your active Earth and Bulwark's barrier. This is going to give us more uptime on our ballistic aspect, aka we're going to have more uptime on our +2 skills. We're going to have more of our barrier, aka that damage multiplier that we just picked up based on our barrier is going to be active more often. And then we're also going to be picking up the aspect of retaliation, which is going to give our core skills 40% increased damage based on our amount of Fortify, which obviously pairs really well with the Mending Stone. And you get the Mending Stone in these Sealed Archives in Dry Steppes, and you get the aspect of retaliation in the Seaside Descent. I forgot to mention our Spirit Boons. I'm not sure how quickly you're going to progress these, but we're going to go Wariness for the 10% reduced damage from elites. There's nothing too great here. I don't think we need more Spirit. I don't think 10 Spirit's going to do a lot. We're going to absolutely grab the 30% increased critical strike damage, because remember, everything that we do with our landslides is going to be guaranteed critical hits, which is just fantastic for us. Here, you could go critical strikes have a 20% chance to reset the cooldowns of your companion skills. Dealing damage has a chance to restore 10 Spirit. Fortify for 10% of your maximum life when you use a defensive skill, and extend the duration of your ultimate skills. Lucky hits aren't great on Druid. We don't have a super fantastic way of proccing this until later. But for this one, I think we go Calamity. This is going to give us a 1.75, or hopefully it rounds up to 2 seconds more of Petrify against bosses. So 2 seconds more of that 50% increased critical strike damage, I think is worth to me. We only need 1 more point to get our ultimate, which we're going to go Earth and Might, which I'll explain in a second. So we're going to grab Safeguard, critical strikes with Earth skills, fortify us for 2% of our base life. More Fortify, more damage. Then we're going to grab Earth and Might. Now, this skill reads, we have a lucky hit. Damaging enemies with Earth skills has a 5% chance to restore all of our spirit and cause our attacks to be guaranteed critical strikes for 5 seconds. This chance is increased by 10% for critical strikes and another 10% if the target is stunned, immobilized, or knocked back. So we have a 25% chance on lucky hit to restore all of our spirit, which is really, really nice, and cause all of our attacks to be guaranteed critical strikes. Now, I think that this is going to lead to a ton of damage. However, we do already have some methods of guaranteed crits, so there is some more complicated synergies for late game with Nature's Fury, but I think for a leveling playthrough, this is going to be the thing to pick up because the guaranteed restore all the spirit and the guaranteed critical strikes is just super nice quality of life. And I can get more into a Nature's Fury build for like late endgame things. But once we grab this, we're going to go up and grab the rest of our points into Safeguard. Critical strikes with Earth skills fortify us for more life. More life equals, or more fortify equals more damage. Then we're going to go up and grab this node, Nature's Reach. Nature's Reach is going to give us increased damage against distant enemies, double this bonus if they're also slowed, stunned, immobilized, or knocked back, which we have knockbacks, we have slows, we have stuns, and we have immobilized. So this is really, really nice damage increase for us. Around level 40, you should be in Act 4, aka Kyrgyzstan, and we're going to pick up 2 very important aspects. We're going to grab the Wind Striker aspect, and we're going to put it on our boots. This is going to give us movement speed whenever we crit, just a nice quality of life. You get this from the Shift to Runes, and we're also going to grab the aspect of Retributions. You get this from the Abandoned Mineworks in Kyrgyzstan. Distant enemies have an 8% chance to be stunned. This is going to give us Terra modes, and whenever we hit a stunned enemy, we deal 20% or 40% increased damage to those stunned enemies. That's Petrify, that's distant enemies getting stunned. We have a ton of different ways to stun enemies, so this is even more damage to stunned enemies, which is really nice. And I should have mentioned this earlier because you get this in the Dry Steppes. Whenever we crowd control an enemy, aka hurt them with an Earth skill, use Petrify, use our Immobilize on our Vine Creepers, anything. Hit them with the Storm Strike that we can immobilize enemies. Whenever we crowd control enemies, we get resource back. This should make the build feel really, really smooth. We're going to have a ton of resource generation, not only with this, but with our passive, with Trample, with Petrify. You shouldn't have to worry about resource regeneration at this point at level 40, or even a little bit earlier. It's just going to start to feel really, really smooth. And we can put our last point here. We can grab every 10th kill will cause your next Earth skill to overpower. Lightning damage, don't care about. Shape-shifting skills, don't care about. Nature magic skills have a chance to restore the cooldown of our ultimate. This is really nice, but at the time being, unless you have the trample aspect that turns it into a nature magic skill, I wouldn't grab this. We're going to grab the Earth overpowers, and then we can grab the nature magic resets our cooldown once we have the aspect that turns trample into a nature modifier. Now that our resources are feeling really, really good, we can come up here and grab Heart of the Wild for more spirit, and more importantly, our core skills cost more spirit but deal 15% increased damage. This is amazing for us because spirit shouldn't be an issue, and we're getting even more damage from that. Then we're going to grab some quality of life. This increases the amount of fortify you gain from all sources by 15%, which is just going to give us even more damage and more tankiness. Now that we're 47, we've basically gotten everything that we need to get. You could dump more points into Bulwark for more fortify, which is very, very nice. I'm going to be spending them down here. When a shape-shifting skill transforms you into a different form, it deals 5% increased damage. That is more damage for trample, but mainly we're coming down here for upon shape-shifting into a werewolf or werebear, gain 12% damage reduction against elites for 5 seconds. This is a little bit more survivability. At this point, we're level 50. These points are going to be coming from Lilith statues, and if you do have the trample aspect, I recommend coming this way and putting points into nature magic skills, deal increased damage. Nature magic skills dealing increased damage with the aspect makes trample a nature magic skill, which is going to make it deal even more damage. And then we can also fill this out. Your earth skills deal more damage against vulnerable enemies, and we're making enemies vulnerable whenever we hit them with Storm Strike, or at least a 50% chance, so even more damage there. And then you can put that last point into Earth and Bulwark. If you don't have the trample aspect, we can grab Earth and Bulwark to give us even more barrier or fortify, which is going to be really, really nice for us. And then we've got 3 more points to spend I'm going to spend them here. Chance to fortify when you have 4% of your base life, and reduce the duration of controlling impairing effects on you. Triple this effect if you have fortify for over 50% of your life. This is just going to reduce like crowd control effects on us, give us a little bit more survivability. And that is the leveling guide. And lastly, we've got our spirit bones. We've got calm before the storm or energize as our options. If you're feeling like you're having spirit issues still, which I don't think you should be, you can go energize. Otherwise, we can go calm before the storm to reduce the duration of our petrify for more uptime on our critical strike damage. And once again, we've got nature skills with trample and with our storm strike. Not a super fantastic chance of happening, but still pretty nice. And guys, that is going to do it for the leveling build. I will have some like super late game Druid builds, but I think Druid is going to have a little bit harder time when it comes to leveling, and so I wanted to make this as easy as possible to follow because there is some really important things to grab while leveling, and I hope my order of leveling and how I was doing things made sense. Let me know if you guys liked this format for this video because it's a little bit different. Usually I just do gear and I just do skill tree and not this full like leveling thing. So yeah, I'll catch you on the next one, guys. Take care. Peace.